How's it going, YouTube? Make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help support this channel. This video will go through Johnston City, West Frankfort, and Benton. All three cities that I feature in this video are located along I-57 between Mount Vernon to the north and Marion to the south. Johnston City, West Frankfort, and Benton all experienced population booms in the 1920s due to an abundance of jobs in the coal mining industry, with West Frankfort being the unofficial economic center of all the coal mining activity. Over time, the coal mining industry has faded, and all three of these cities have suffered from the decline of the coal industry, as not many other new industries or manufacturers have moved into the area. I start the video just south of Johnston City, and I continue to head north from there. If you're unfamiliar with my videos, I do speed up my videos in order to show more in a less amount of time. I do slow down the video though once I get to Johnston City, so no worries, as my goal isn't to make your head spin. You can always keep track of the real time that it takes me to drive in the lower left corner of the screen. We did start in Williamson County, in which Marion is the county seat. If you haven't seen my video on Carbondale and Marion, you should check that out. As you can tell, we have made it to Johnston City. The town is located in the north-central part of Williamson County. Williamson County has seen slight population growth every census count since 1970, as it hit a population of 67,000. Johnston City, however, saw a peak population of 7,137 in 1920, and today Johnston City has a population of 3,441, as it has seen a population loss every decade, beginning with the 1930 census. The median household income is $32,000 per year, and 23% of the residents live in poverty. The median value of owner-occupied housing units is $62,000. Jobs are hard to come by in Johnston City, and for the people that do have jobs, many of them typically have to drive to other nearby neighboring cities. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, Johnston City was a boomtown in the 1920s due to an abundance of coal mining jobs in the area at that time. Many immigrants moved to Johnston City from places as far away as Italy. As we all know, Americans at the time were not always welcoming to people of different cultures. On June 10, 1915, a lynching took place here of an Italian miner named Joe Strando. Strando was a suspect of murdering a wealthy local white man named Edward Chapman, and a group of 300 locals took him from the jail to commit the act. Italian groups heard about the incident and weren't happy. Violence then broke out soon afterwards, and the governor had to send in waves of militia to end the violence. 6 years after that incident, another immigrant named Cetino de Santis confessed to committing the murder. Coal mining jobs in the area started to fade in the 1930s, and in the 1960s, new safety standards were put in place in coal mines due to previous explosions that have occurred. We'll talk about a significant explosion that changed coal mining in the region later in the video. However, as the decline in coal mining jobs came about, people left Johnston City in a heartbeat. After a peak population of 7,137 in the 1920 census, the population dropped to 6,000 in 1930, 4,000 in 1960, and since 1960, the city has consistently lost approximately 100 residents every 10 years. On the left is Washington Middle School, and up ahead is Johnston City High School, home of the Indians. Niche.com ranks the city school district as a C+, meaning that they're average. Nothing great, but nothing horrible either. Johnston City is also a relatively safe city with a below-average violent crime and property crime rate. Pretty nice football field for a town with less than 4,000 residents. This is downtown Johnston City. The first block of downtown is very sad looking. Further ahead, more buildings are in use, but you can also see vacant lots where buildings most likely used to be. More often than not, an appearance of a downtown area can tell you a lot about the local economy, and it's no secret that there aren't many jobs in this city. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people that live here have to commute to other nearby cities for work. Make sure to drop a like for that amazing insight. The biggest positive about Johnston City is definitely the affordability, as long as you don't include the state of Illinois property taxes. But get this, on the day of editing this video, which was June 28, 2020, the White House that you see on the left right here was listed for sale. It has 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 3,000 square feet, and a 2-car garage. All of that, and it's only going for $140,000. Most of the rooms have been recently remodeled. The home is move-in ready and has been on Zillow for a whole year, and it still can't sell, probably because nobody new is moving to this area, and that's the reality of Johnston City. Hopefully in the future the state takes a page out of Indiana's book by lowering their taxes to encourage new economic growth, especially in rural-based small towns like Johnston City. Now we hop on northbound I-57 until we get to West Frankfort. West Frankfort has more history than all 3 cities that I show you in this video. West Frankfort is about 20 minutes north of Marion and 35 minutes south of Mount Vernon. About 7,800 people live in West Frankfort today, which is down from a city-claimed peak population of nearly 20,000 in 1927. Since that's not a year that ends with 0, that record wasn't kept by the U.S. Census, as the census tracked a peak population of 14,683 in 1930. Nonetheless, a much less amount of people live in West Frankfort today, and this goes back to the coal mining jobs leaving the region from the 1930s to the 1960s. West Frankfort was the pure definition of a boomtown, as railroads came through the area connecting the city to Chicago, Memphis, and Paducah, Kentucky. At one point, West Frankfort even had a minor league baseball team called the Cardinals that was a Class D affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals. Make sure to drop a like for that amazing insight. West Frankfort's downtown looks to be more occupied than nearby Johnston City. However, the local economy here struggles just as much. You don't lose over half of your region's peak population if that wasn't the case. West Frankfort has a median household income of $28,000 per year, and nearly 30% of its residents are living in poverty. Crime is not an issue here, however, and the schools are just like Johnston City schools. Nothing special, but nothing horrible. Just about average. On the left is Frankfort Community High School, and it looks like the original high school building, and I personally really like it when towns keep their original high schools, as those buildings typically have really nice architecture. The football field, however, is located 5 blocks behind the school, as apparently there wasn't enough space to put it right next to the school. Now's a good time to mention the coal mining history of the area. There's a park in downtown called Coal Miners Memorial Park. The park was made in remembrance of the lives that were lost on December 21st, 1951 in a coal mining explosion that killed 119 men. The explosion occurred at the Orient No. 2 coal mine, which was located just outside of West Frankfort to the west. That was only one of several coal mine explosions in the area from the 1920s to the 1950s. The 1951 explosion led to the Federal Coal Mine Safety Act of 1952. The act gave the U.S. authority to shut down underground coal mines that they believed were in danger of having an explosion. If a coal mine operator refused to give access to an inspector or they refused to shut down their mine after being ordered to do so, then they were given civil penalties. This forced coal mines to practice better safety by limiting the levels of methane gas inside the mines, which was the main cause for many coal mine explosion disasters seen throughout the country. As we come up on this hill, the Frankfort Area Historical Museum is on the right. This is also where the original town of Frankfort was located. However, when the railroad tracks were built further west, commercial development grew in close proximity to the railroad tracks, and that town became known as West Frankfort. Eventually, both Frankfort and West Frankfort merged to become one. Some locals refer to this section of the city as the Heights, as it is on a hill. There used to be a post office set for the Heights before it was ruined by a fire in 2004. Make sure to drop a like for that amazing insight. This looks like a newer facility as it's an interconnected junior high and intermediate school. West Frankfort is located in Franklin County, but it's not the county seat. Much like West Frankfort, however, Franklin County has lost nearly half of its peak population. In 1930, Franklin County was home to 59,000, while today it's home to 38,000. The county did see a population gain of 1.4% in the 2010 census, but it went back to its declining population ways as it's now estimated to have lost 2.2% since 2010. The reason for the region's continued population loss is because of the lack of economic growth, with no new jobs coming to the area. Once again, this also goes back to the taxes set by the state of Illinois. Why would an employer come here if they're just going to be taxed out of the wazoo when they can just set up shop in neighboring states such as Indiana, Missouri, or even Kentucky? There's a boat manufacturer just south of town and a few other employers located here and there throughout the town, but nothing substantial enough to keep people from leaving town or to make people want to move in. The median owner-occupied home value in West Frankfort is valued at $62,000, which is almost identical to that of nearby Johnston City. Many of the homes for sale on the market are in need of updates, as only a few that are listed are fully move-in ready. Now we head northbound on I-57 once again until we get to the third city in this video, Benton. Benton is the county seat of Franklin County. It's about a 25-minute drive north of Marion and a 30-minute drive south of Mount Vernon. The town's population is 6,900 and is different from that of West Frankfort and Johnston City in terms of the trend of population loss. Benton saw a rise in population due to coal mining jobs around the 1920s, just like the previous two cities. In 1930, the city's population peaked at 8,200. Benton, however, never saw the sharp population losses as the other two cities did. Both Johnston City and West Frankfort lost over half of their peak populations, but not Benton. Benton does have a dark history, however, with strong KKK roots during the early 20th century. For a while, there were no blacks that lived in this town, as Benton was a sundown town. Sundown towns were common throughout southern Illinois. The definition of a sundown town is an all-white municipality that practiced segregation by excluding non-whites through a combination of discriminatory laws, intimidation, and violence. These towns had signs posted saying that non-whites had to leave town by sundown, to put it nicely. There are stories of African Americans who tried to build houses inside the city limits of Benton or nearby, only to have their houses burned down. An incident like that has happened as recent as the year 1986. There's another story of a local resident who passed away in the mid-1960s and had family members come into town for the funeral. One family member brought her maid and her husband, who were both African American, as they lived in Chicago, only to have a local fire a shotgun in their direction and telling them to get out. In 2002, the chief federal judge for Southern Illinois, Patrick Murphy, tried to stop a new federal courthouse from being built in Benton, saying that he believed that it was wrong to send resources of the federal government to a community that is a sundown town and is not diverse or enthusiastic about letting employees of the state fully participate in community life. If you're interested more in learning about the horrible historical practices of not only Benton but many sundown towns, I have attached a link in the description regarding the topic. It's a terrific study. I will also note that Johnston City and West Frankfort were sundown towns as well. After mentioning all of that, I think it's time to mention as well that Benton was among the thousands of cities across the U.S. that saw Black Lives Matter protests in response to the George Floyd murder in Minneapolis. It's great to see so many people being woken up to the racial issue that hovers around this country like a dark cloud, especially people in white rural towns with incredibly strong racist pasts like Benton. Just because people gathered at the town square to protest, though, doesn't mean that all of the work is done. No, not at all. Benton and many other communities need a lot more education on the matter, and it starts with admitting their racial bias. Mostly all of the people that grew up here and have generations of their own family roots from the same area were raised incorrectly and were taught the wrong morals, and that's just going to take a long time for the community to grow out of. The protest at the town square is just a start, but it's a great start at that, and it's one that should be encouraged, as it shows that people are starting to recognize that their train of thought on life in general was completely wrong all along. I also want to be clear that I'm not calling every single person in Benton racist or West Frankfort or Johnston City. I'm just saying that it has a strong history of racism and there's still a lot of work to do. Previously, when I was talking, we did pass Benton High School along East Main Street. This town's demographics are nearly completely white. 95% of the 6,800 people that live here are white, and the U.S. Census data says that 0% of the residents are black, and that's due to the town's history that I described earlier. The census also lists West Frankfort as having 96% of the town as white and only 1% black, while Johnston City is 97% white and also 0% black. Back to Benton, the median household income here is $37,000 per year, and the poverty rate is nearly 20%. Just like West Frankfort and Johnston City, jobs are hard to come by in this town, but it's not as bad as West Frankfort or Johnston City. There is a hospital in town, although the hospital that is in town only has a 2.4 out of 5 review on Google. That's not good. And there's also not a hospital in West Frankfort, even though it has more people, and there is not a hospital in Johnston City either. Make sure to drop a like for that amazing insight. Benton is also just a few minutes drive south of Rend Lake, which is Illinois' second largest reservoir and provides recreation to the region. I'm sure on a nice summer day you can see a lot of hilljacks out on their boats on the water drinking their canned beer and screaming, "America!" Nothing like smoking your cigarette in your good old canoe boat and catching a big old hunkin' fish, right? Alright, jokes aside, I hope that the group of people that I'm making light of are watching this video and really listen to what I said about sundown towns. Not all of them come from families that practice racism, and it's wrong to assume that, and that's not what I'm doing, and I do want to be clear about that. But at the same time, given the area's history, it is most definitely safe to assume that a portion of them come from generations of families that back in the day practiced those racist acts. Up ahead is the Franklin County Courthouse, which is in the center of the public square. The streets that intersect at the public square are North Main, South Main, East Main, and West Main. I don't recall too many towns that I've been to that have two different streets named Main Street. The courthouse is slated to be demolished soon and replaced, as it was built in 1874. Among the more well-known people that are from here, former NBA player and NBA coach Doug Collins went to Benton High School. Collins was a player for the Philadelphia 76ers from 1973 to 1981 and was the head coach of the Chicago Bulls from 1986 to 1989, the Detroit Pistons from 1995 to 1998, the Washington Wizards from 2001 to 2003, and the 76ers from 2010 to 2013. John Malkovich, who is a successful actor, also went to Benton High School. One last thing to mention about Benton, as Niche.com ranks Benton's public schools right along with Johnston City and West Frankfort. Nothing great, but nothing horrible. The violent crime rate is the highest of the three cities, however, as it sits at 476 for every 100,000 residents. The median owner-occupied housing unit value is $72,000. Well, that's about it for this video. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a video of an area near you. We'll see you next time. Peace.